Hello, my name is Keith Moore. I'm the Law Director for the City of Norwood, and I'd like to welcome you to the Law Director segment of the Norwood Community Television Candidate Forums. I would like to thank Steve, and I'd like to thank Tyler and the rest of the people here at NCT for putting on these forums. They do it every election. I think it's an invaluable service, and that's in addition to doing the council meetings and the athletic events and the parade and the school board meetings. So my thanks to them. And I'd also like to thank you for tuning in. It's always worthwhile knowing that somebody has seen something you put some work into, so I appreciate that. I was going to talk about the kind of three large things tonight. Well, for me, it's tonight. One is kind of who I am. For those who don't know me or aren't familiar with me, a little bit about who I am. I was going to talk a little bit about this election because the 2019 election is going to lead to some big changes in the city in 2020. And talk a little bit about kind of what my office has done, the law department has done over the last almost 4 years, and why, quite honestly, I think I'm probably the better candidate when it comes to the law director's office. So let's start with who I am. My name's Keith Moore. I'm the current law director. We've been passing these out. You may have one. If not, you should get one. It's got lots and lots of information, my phone number, email, all that stuff in there. I'm currently the law director. I served for 12 years on Norwood City Council, and that included economic development issues and lots of budgetary issues, and we restructured government. There's a lot of things that went on, a lot of things I'm very proud of, but I've only got 15 minutes. After I was on council, I was on the Planning Commission and the Zoning Board before I became law director. I was a co-founder of the West Norwood Neighborhood Association. I served on the Woven Oak Board of Directors, and outside of Norwood, I have served as I was the Mayor's Court Prosecutor in the Village of New Richmond for many, many years. Now, just as a little background on the law department is, what's the law director? Kind of the Attorney General of the city, and it's made up of three people. We have a full-time law director, a part-time law director. All the elected officials in Norwood are part-time. We have a full-time assistant law director. That's the full-time lawyer there. And then we have a secretary, and that job has changed dramatically during my tenure. But so I have a full-time job. My full-time job is I edit law school textbooks. So I bring a wealth of knowledge on a host of legal subjects, from civil rights to civil procedure, bankruptcy, criminal law, criminal procedure, state and local government law, constitutional law. There's a whole host of things that I bring in. So that's kind of who I am, a little bit about my background. I live in West Norwood with my wife and my youngest son. My older son he's a sophomore at the University of Alabama, and we have a Husky Shepherd mix named Obi-Wan Kenobi. So that's my nerd cred. So I've got a lot of history with the city. And I want to tell you, it's shift over to this election. It's an interesting election. For the first time in a very long time, January 1st of 2020, we are going to have a new mayor. We're also going to have a new president of council. We're definitely going to have a new council. The two most senior members of council are not running for re-election. And so we're definitely going to have some new members of council. And that means that starting January 1st, the most senior members of council then are going to have 4 years of experience in that job. So we had a lot of people moving in. And with the new mayor and with the new changes on council, we're also going to have, I can almost guarantee, we'll have a new service safety director. And that's essentially the city manager for the city. And a new secretary for the mayor and service safety director. And the two individuals in those positions now have been with the city for a long time. They have done a lot of different things for and with the city. They have a lot of knowledge, a lot of institutional knowledge, a lot of memory, a lot of kind of knowing where everything is and where it's supposed to go. We may also have a new building commissioner, a new superintendent of public works, a new mayor's court magistrate, a new clerk of courts. We could have a new clerk of council. That's a lot of important key positions. That's a lot of new people. There will be a lot of new people. It could be pretty much almost all the people in charge of a big chunk of the city. So those people are going to come in, and some may be somewhat familiar with Norwood. I would hope they all have municipal experience of some kind or another, but they may not understand exactly how Norwood is and how Norwood got where it is and how things are structured. So I think for this election more than most, Some continuity in the law department is an important thing. And I think in this particular election, with all of those changes coming, I would say that it's extremely important to maintain some institutional knowledge, some stability in the law department, which would be to reelect me. Now, it's not just me, but let me talk a little bit about my team and what we bring. So we have, like I said, the full-time attorney is Tim Gary Jr. We're very, very lucky to have him. I'm very lucky to have him, to have been able to bring him in as the assistant law director. Tim was the law director. He served 4 years as the law director in the past. He also has years of experience as a Hamilton County prosecutor. He also, after he was at the prosecutor's office, he was in civil practice, and so he's got years of civil litigation experience and contracting experience and real estate and a host of other issues. He's easily, I would have to say, the most qualified, the most experienced assistant law director the city's ever had. So he brings an awful lot to the table. Also, we have the secretary. When I started, it was kind of a traditional secretary's position, but in the real world, you don't need secretaries. It's not like we're dictating letters kind of thing. So the person that's currently in the secretary's position is T.A. Brown, who's a retired Norwood police officer. And while he was at the police department, he did tech support pretty much for the whole city. He continues that role today. So 2/3 of his time is spent doing tech support for every department of the city. In addition, after he left the police department, he was secretary to the clerk of council. So he's got a lot of experience on the procedural issues, a lot of the paperwork kinds of issues that are required of city council and that office. With the new council members, new president of council, that kind of knowledge is going to be invaluable. So I think that we bring a lot to the table. We are in a unique position to work with all of the offices in the city. And I'll say this about both Mr. Brown and Mr. Gary. They're incredibly professional, incredibly hardworking, incredibly dedicated. And I think the city's lucky to have them. All three of us, I believe, have shown an ability to work with pretty much anyone. If you got a good idea, if you've got a position, if you're a policymaker, if you're a council member, if you're the mayor, if you're the building commissioner, and whether or not we agree with the decision you're making, I think we've been very, very good at being able to work with anyone, despite their party, despite their disagreeing on positions, despite the rest of it. Because the law department doesn't make policy. The law department helps advise the rest of the city departments, council and the mayor primarily, on the legalities of policies, the pluses and minuses of different possible approaches to things. We are there to defend the city when a policy is challenged, and we're there to help carry out those policies once they're decided on. And I think we bring a lot to the table as far as being able to work with pretty much anybody for the betterment of the city. So this team that I have, my team that I put together, I want to talk a little bit about my term as law director. Now, I could talk a lot about the stuff we did on council. There was a lot. But as law director, there have been a few, I think, kind of changes of direction in a couple of places. One of them is in mayor's court. We do more kinds of cases in mayor's court than was done under my predecessors. And we got in, there were just like certain classes of cases that we're not doing that in mayor's court. File those under state law downtown in the Hamilton County Municipal Court. And so, but Tim and I looked at each other and said, well, we can do theft cases here. We can do whatever we got. It's a violation of Norwood law, which is what mayor's court is for. We got no reason not to do it here because he's got experience prosecuting, serious felony prosecutions. I've got experience prosecuting in mayor's court. There's not a problem with bringing those cases through mayor's court. One of the other changes is we really go out of our way to give written legal opinions. From my understanding, prior practice in the law department was there were not very many legal opinions in writing issued. Now that's a problem. So if you are in the auditor's office and you got a payroll issue, how do we calculate past vacation time? How do we calculate, how do we work this out under the contract? Well, telling you is one thing, but giving you written policy, or if you're in the water department, what do we do if this situation comes up? One of the clerks in the water department, well, you got to have a written policy. It comes up again in 3 months or 6 months or 9 months. We'll pull out the policy. Here's what it is. Now, the plus side is I think that helps all of the departments operate better. The downside is we get a lot more requests, I think, than came in before for assistance, for advice, for opinions. One of the other things we managed to do is we did a recodification. Generally, the city passes ordinances, but they need to be incorporated into the Norwood codified ordinances to keep that up to date. It hadn't been done since 2011. We pulled all those in, got it taken care of, and so everyone can access the same codified ordinances. What's the rule for this? What's the rule for that? That's a police department, that's citizens, that's different departments. We cleaned up property. So the city, when I got in, I did not realize, I knew we'd been acquiring property out of tax foreclosure sales. I didn't realize that we hadn't paid off the back taxes, or that we had to pay the back taxes. And when I got in, it's like, well, which of these should we pay? And I'm like, why would we not? What? So, and here's what we've done. We had a whole host of parcels of property we owed back taxes on. Every 6 months, the amount we owed went up because you get a new tax bill every 6 months. What we've done is we got the back taxes paid off, we got exemptions filed, so no future taxes, and we got $67,000 in refund. In addition, 12 of those parcels we have auctioned off, and the closing was the end of September, and the total bids for those 12 parcels, $260,000, over $260,000 were the bids. I want to say one other thing about bringing in perhaps a less experienced law director, and I don't know who might be appointed as the assistant law director. And that is, we are dealing, one of the big time sucks at this point is a civil rights case dating from 1988. A gentleman was convicted in 1988 of murder in Newport, Kentucky. After DNA, 20 some years later, after DNA testing and some investigation, he was released. And he filed a big lawsuit against Newport. Unfortunately, he also filed the suit against Cincinnati and Norwood and dragged us into it. Now, normally that's something we would pass off to our liability insurance carrier because it's a lot of work. Just like you've got insurance, you get in a car wreck, the other driver sues you, your insurance company handles the defense of that. That's what we would normally do. Turns out the city didn't have liability insurance in 1988. So the alternatives were, we're going to hire an outside firm to represent us at $100,000, $200,000, or we're going to do it. Well, I've got experience, I've got some understanding with federal civil procedure and civil rights law. I drafted a motion. I got 7 of the 8 counts against us dismissed. Mr. Gary's got the experience, incredible amounts of litigation experience, and he has been working on the depositions and interrogatories and all the documents to compile the evidence we need. So what we need to continue on this case is either hire outside counsel, or you need somebody with a lot of civil litigation experience and some understanding of federal process and federal civil rights law. I don't know if that's something that my opponent can bring. So I've talked a little bit about myself and my background. I've talked some about my team. I've mentioned how important this election is, how big the changes are going to be. I think that I, quite honestly, have more to offer, and my team have more to offer as far as helping the new policymakers coming in stay out of trouble, make policies that are going to work us in the right direction, stay on the right side of the law, and not spend a lot of time spinning their wheels. So I want to thank you for watching. I hope I can count on, I hope you will support me in early voting or on election day this November. And I ask you to choose more for Norwood. Don't settle for less. Thank you very much.